Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. We appreciate y'all for joining us for another TradeZero webinar. There have been so many great discussions that we've had in the past. Today's webinar is going to be filled with a lot of information as well. And we've got our two guests coming back as well. You've got Mark Antoine, who is the technical product manager, and also Dan Pipitone, who is the CEO of TradeZero Holding Corp. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me again.
Thanks.
What's up?
Looking forward to jumping right into day trading.
No. You guys hesitated way too much. I get it. You don't want to hang out. That's fine. That's fine. No, it's always great to talk to you guys and about trading and different things that TradeZero is doing. You know, I'll get right into it. Dan, we've heard so much of payment for order flow and this and that and all the articles. One of the things that we're going to talk about today that you're going to dive into is going to be direct access and different routings. Why is that more important for individuals to know about to see if it fits their trading styles?
I think it depends on, it's very applicable to folks who are scalping and doing really high frequency type trading. This is for the more savvy trader who understands what each of the routes and venues do, how they work, what the costs and fees are. But typically those are going to give you some of the best executions around, because you're interacting directly with the exchanges using the direct market access. Payment for order flow, listen, it's a great tool. It's a great thing to have. We wouldn't have commission-free trading without it. So for the vast majority of folks, I think that getting PFOF, having orders represented and filled by market makers is an excellent choice. But we'll dive into the specifics around both of those as we move through.
I remember reading articles about how they wanted Ethernet cords that were straight, direct to the exchange. You can't go on a curve because it could slow down the speed by a nanosecond of a nanosecond. I don't even know whatever that's called, but I'm excited to nerd out about this. But yeah, take it away. Let's talk about some direct access and select routings.
Cool. So just kicking off, there are really three different types of order routings or order types that we facilitate. We have our smart order router, which this is what allows us to do commission-free trading. We are typically routing to venues like Virtu, Citadel, and others. For TradeZero America, all of this information is available on our website, on our what's called 606 report. This is an obligation that every U.S. broker needs to provide that information and access, so folks can dive in on that. This, I feel, again, to repeat, I think this really is helpful to the vast majority of folks, whether you're an active day trader, an investor, or not. I think that this is really the place where most people find comfort and home, because it's just really nice when you go in and you check your trading run and history that there are all zeros in the commission column. Algos, while we do have some algos available to TradeZero America and TZI traders, things like a percent of volume, VWAP, TWAP. These are usually reserved for institutional-like traders, where they want to spread a big order out over a longer course of the day, so that it's constantly interacting with where the market is, rather than moving the market, because a lot of times big size will tend to move a stock price up or down just by itself. And then there's the direct exchange access. These exchanges, places like ARCA, the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, BATS, EDGX, to name a few. These exchanges have what's called a maker-taker model in terms of pricing. So if I want to send an order to an ARCA or a NASDAQ, if I take liquidity, I'm going to pay. And if I add liquidity, I'm going to collect a rebate. Now, direct market access is available at all of the TradeZero brokers, but it's very important to know when and where to use these different routes. We do charge a 15 mil commission, 0.0015 cents per share. But when you're taking liquidity, typically that is 0.0035 per share. So the entire share to remove liquidity is going to be about a half a penny. And on the rebate side, the typical rebate provided by the exchanges I just mentioned is 0.002 per share, or $2 per 1,000 shares. And so that would offset the commission, actually give you a little bit of a delta there in terms of a rebate that's collected. So those are the three different types of order routings that you can choose from at TradeZero. To enable algos or DMA, direct market access, just let the customer service teams at your respective broker know, and they'll be happy to kind of set that up for you. And what would happen is, on your platform, you would actually see most folks, when they go to the route section of the order entry of the level 2 screen, see just smart, because they're using the smart order router. But if you're a DMA client, in that drop down, you'll see all of the available routes that either you've requested or we've made available to you. So that's kind of the difference in terms of the setup.
One of the questions I had was, you mentioned the maker and taker. Can I look at it as like a limit order versus a market order? Is that a good way to look at it, or am I wrong?
Kind of. So think about this. Adding liquidity or making liquidity is you placing a limit order at a price that doesn't create an immediate match. So it doesn't matter buying or selling. So if you have stock trading at 10 by 10:03, let's say, if you put an order to buy at 10:01 or an order to sell at 10:02 or 10:01, you've now created the new price. And when someone else interacts with that, you get paid the rebate, and that other person would pay, essentially. So it doesn't matter buying or selling, shorting or covering. It matters where, on a limit order, if your limit order creates an immediate match, that's taking liquidity. If it does not create an immediate match, and this could even be a fraction of a second, then that is adding liquidity, and that warrants a rebate.
All right, got it.
So yeah, just I was highlighting, this is a slide that illustrates it. The DMA commission is 0.015 per share, and then there are the exchange routing fees that are either added or taken away from that. There is a complete listing of what those fees are on our pricing pages. The other things that we do with respect to provisioning, as I mentioned, are the algos. So if you're someone who trades 30, 40, 50,000 shares at a time, you may want to explore using some algos, because at the end of the day, these are the things that hedge funds and the like execute their orders. They're not just sending market orders or limit orders, although sometimes they will send limit orders where they're hiding their order, where you can find that on the TradeZero platform. Underneath the section of the order entry that says order display quantity. So I may have 10,000 or 20,000 shares to buy or sell, but I only want to show the market 100. So it's another tip and tool that folks use. That is only available when you have access to the direct exchange routes, the hidden order type. Moving along. So I'm going to hand this over to Mark. He's going to handle our long trading section, and I'll come back for the shorts.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. Cool. So we're going to try and get through the slides as quick as possible and jump into some real demos. If you have been on the last few webinars, you will have seen me talk about the new scanner, the Pro scanner. We've spoken about how you can use these tools in tandem with each other to be able to find success in your own trading and your own trading style, and even find your own trading style. But just before we jump into a demo and we cover, first of all, the sort of different ways to trade at TradeZero, and then go into long trading and all the tools you can use. Let's just real quick recap some points which Dan has given me kindly here. The Pro scanner, again, we've beaten this to death. We spoke about it a lot. It's that good of a tool. You're paying 50, 60 bucks a month, even more with some of these platforms for some of these tools, when we're offering it for free at TradeZero on both Zero Pro, TZ1, and soon coming to mobile. You can put me on record saying that. So we're going to go over the Pro Scanner very soon. But the big thing I like to highlight around the Pro Scanner is it simply gives you the info you need to then inform yourself of whether you would like to take a trade or not. Right? When you see things moving, you then go into it. You research the trade. By the time you spent 30 seconds, 60 seconds researching the trade and looking into why it's moving, it's gone, right? It's already gone, and it's up 67%, 70%, or depending on what you're trading, it's flying already, right? And then you get FOMO, you jump in, you end up possibly taking a red trade, and it just goes on and on from there, right? You get stuck in a cycle. Whereas the scanner is meant to give you a heads up on things that are moving early and often, so that you can ask the questions more often and be in a position to actually take the trade after having done the research and watching everyone else chase the same trade. Number 2, react early with extended market hours. So, of course, we offer all sessions, so pre-market, regular hours, and after hours. Pre-market, of course, starting at 4 a.m. ET and ending at around 9:30 ET, well, at 9:30 ET, at which point regular market opens. Options trading also opens, and that ends at around 4 p.m. ET, which is the start of the after hours session. And for those of you who, again, we're talking to a lot of different types of traders here. Some of you guys could be options guys, short sellers, long traders, news traders. There's a million sort of types of user out there. But if I'm talking to the pre-market guys, you guys are more small cap users. You like to jump in, ride these waves. A lot of scalpers in pre-market as well. If I'm talking to the regular hours guys, you could still be hitting small caps, or you could be more options guys, or you could be a gap and go type trader. Again, there's a million types of traders out there, and we cater to all of them through making sure you have access to the market at all times that it's available. Managing your risk with advanced order types. So, of course, we do have Zero Pro's trailing stops, both percent and dollar trails in Zero Pro. Coming soon to TZ1 as well as the rest of our platforms. That is something we're very conscious of. We're also bringing bracket orders soon to all platforms, which is the ability to set your stop loss and your take profit and your initial order all in one go with one order. That's coming very soon, so you can look forward to that. And we'll do a demo as soon as we have it. Number 4, direct trading view chart integration. So in TZ1 itself, we have trading view charts. I'm going to show you that in a second. And it's funny talking about trading view. I mean, recently we've received a real wave of users inquiring about the trading view brokerage integration, right? Which is where you can go to tradingview.com, you can log in, and you can essentially connect your TradeZero brokerage account to tradingview.com and trade through TradingView's UI, which I'm actually going to demo in just a second. But we'll cover some more stuff first. If I can get the next slide, Dan, is that all right? So again, cost and value prop for the long traders out here. Again, I mentioned, some of you guys will be shorts, some of you guys will be longs. But for you long guys, which I personally identify myself with you, zero commission on orders. Of course, you do need to take into account what Dan was talking about when it comes to liquidity creation or liquidity taking. So don't forget all of Dan's comments on that. Direct market access and select routes. Again, touching on what Dan mentioned earlier on in this call. I won't go over that again. Full 16-hour access. You get the pre-market, you get the regular hours, and you get the after hours. It's funny as you go through the years trading, especially in the small cap market, I guess, you end up noticing trends, right? So some years after hours was just hot, right? You had power hour going into after hours, and it was just hot. These days, pre-market is a little more hot. The press releases come out in pre-market, the volumes in pre-market, things are changing. They're constantly fluid, right? So being able to chop and change when you want as a user is what's most important. And again, highly competitive options pricing. We did touch heavily on options pricing a couple of weeks ago on a webinar we did, talking about our new risk graphs and the way you can visualize risk on multi-leg options trading in Zero Pro. So we won't talk about that too much right now, but of course we do have the competitive pricing option. So we're going to talk about this in more of a demo, but just to cover this, so the Pro Scanner is there for you guys to identify the setups. the news scanner is there for you guys to not just identify the setups, but understand why they're running, so you can then make a more conscious decision when it comes to taking the trade, right? We all know when you take a trade and you take a trade with a voice in the back of your mind, not really knowing the reason, not having the conviction to take the trade. As soon as you're in that trade, you're looking to get out already, right? You're a couple percent down and you're already looking for a way out. When you have that conviction, when you have that reason for why you're in the trade, that reason why, that's what gives you the ability to sit in the trade through the ups and downs. And whether you're a swing trader, a long trader, a long-term trader, or a scalper, the news matters, right? The reason why you're taking that trade matters. And the scanner can be a reason in itself, right? If you see this, if you see something hit the scan and it's showing you certain characteristics that match the characteristics of things you've seen in the past that have run big, of course, that's a reason. But again, this is all completely subjective to yourself, your own trading style, and the way you like to do things, right? So that's the Pro Scanner, and we'll touch on that in a second. Entry and catalysts. A lot of these times you do see things come out in the after hours the previous day, so around, we'll say 4:30, 5 p.m. ET, and then you'll see these things not gain much traction, or at least have its first leg, and then the second leg comes at around 4 a.m., 5 a.m. the next day. We've been seeing that a lot more often these days, right? And again, I won't mention any specific tickers, but any of you who are watching the top list, logging on every morning and sort of really watching how things are looking and the landscape each morning, you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll know what I'm talking about, where why it's happening. That's for anyone's guess. No one really can really put a comment on that, but you will notice that just because it ran its first leg after hours doesn't mean it's done. That 4 a.m. Open, pre-market open, for the guys who are up early, guys and girls who are up early, it's not over. The move can continue. So before we sort of gap and goes, where you'd gap up in the pre-market and you'd continue in the regular hours. Even now we see that. Now we sort of have the gap and go from after hours into pre-market, which is nice to see. The volume's coming in. Risk controls. So again, we've touched on this earlier on, but stop losses, trailing stops, conditional orders in Zero Pro. Again, it's extremely important for all of us to understand the risk management side of things at TradeZero. I do know that for some of the broker dealers, we now have stops in pre-market and after hours, but that is that. Strategy validation. So if you would like to practice against any of our tools, you can go to a paper trading account, which is a separate account from your live account. Just head over to tradezero.com, click on the top left where it says trade. Under the drop down, it will say paper trading, completely free. Jump in and experience NASDAQ basic data, so basic market data with full charting and capability. You don't get level 2 market depth, unfortunately. You do get level 1 though, and you'll be able to go ahead and test your strategies out with paper trading. We are going to come back to talk about paper trading in about 10 minutes when we cover the API trading side of things, which I'm very excited to show you guys. But for now, I think we're good there. But we'll move away from the slides for now. Let's jump straight into the platforms. So I'm gonna be honest. I've been on holiday for a few days. I've took a couple of days of vacation and I'm back. And I don't know really what's going on. So let's take a look at how I personally would use our tools at TradeZero to figure out what's going on today. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into TZ1. Again, all of this is available on Zero Pro. So if you'd like to use Zero Pro, feel free. I'm going to be using TZ1 for today's demo. I'm gonna jump over, grab myself a. What I'll do first, I'll reset to the default layout just so you guys can all start with me at the same point. I'm going to come over to the market movers window. Let's grab one of these, stick it down here. I'll split my orders into two, and I'm going to grab. Oops, sorry, I grabbed the complete wrong window. That's my fault. Stick over here, market movers. Let's take a look. What's going on today. So top gainers, I want to see what's going on. RGNT, Cast, CUPR. I'm ignoring this one because it's low volume. Warrants, PAVs, etc., right? It's great to know they're moving. brilliant to know what's going on and what's moving. Often, I mean, look, you guys will know when you're in pre-market and it's getting towards 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m., and nothing's really gone above 100%. You're starting to ask questions. You know, what's going on today? Maybe the next one is going to hit. The volume's maybe gonna all sort of move to whatever headline comes out next. So it's always good to know how many runners you have for the day, because that kind of helps you understand what the day is like. So today we've got a 300%er, a 200%er, another 150%er. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just browse through the charts, have a little look, a lot of hot ups, CUPR. Now, none of these take my fancy. I don't like RGNT. I'm not a big fan of Cast. That clearly went crazy 4 a.m. It's been coming down ever since. It's settling here. Not a bad bounce spot. CUPR, for example. Let's have a look at this. Again, the charts on their own and the fact they've moved isn't enough for me, right? So what am I going to do next? I'm going to come in here. I'm going to open my news scanner, right? I'm going to throw my news scanner on the left over here. So you'll have to forgive me for my messy layout right now. I'm sort of just freestyling the whole thing. Let me move this over here to the right. Let's do that. And I'm going to close my watch list. I'm going to just for the time being close my portfolio, okay? Just so we can have a nice big view of this. Again, I've logged in the morning. I'm not too sure what's going on. Let's see how I'd find out. I'd go over here. I'd click the filters on my news scanner. So again, the news scanner being a window which allows you to filter down the headlines you're seeing by a number of fundamental values. So I'm going to click into the filters bar. I'm going to go ahead and click the change percent. Okay. And then, and I'm going to hit a minimum of 50%. What I'm saying to the system is I want to see all of the headlines for symbols that have moved 50% today. Okay. So this change percent value is intraday change percent, right? So from pre-market, from yesterday's close up until today's close. What's the change? I'm going to close this now. And this is giving me a list of headlines here from symbols which are associated with companies that have had a move of 50% or above, right? Now I could of course change this to be 25%, and we'll see a couple extra symbols. I think there's only one extra symbol in there. Now we have the top list, which tells us what moved, and we have the news scanner, which tells us why it moved. All right. So let's take GPUS, for example. I'm interested in GPUS. Why did GPUS move? I'm going to click GPUS first just to load it into my chart, just so I can watch the chart. Oh, that's a beautiful chart right there. That is nice. For you guys, I won't go. This isn't a technical, analysis call, but this is what I was talking about, right? Yeah, little push into 4 a.m. this morning. Big push now, right? This is up. What is this up? Let's have a look. GPUS is up 45% today. And you guys will know if you've seen these before. This is pretty potent as a shape. But we're not here to talk about how you trade these things. We're more here to talk about how you could find opportunities. But hey, look, GPS is looking real nice. I'm getting FOMO looking at this thing. But let's ask the question why? Why did GPUS go? So yesterday there was no real news, as far as I can tell here. But today, June 15th, you'll have to forgive me. These times are in UTC, so you'll have to convert these to. We'll convert these to EST in our heads. But this was early this morning, 6 hours ago. Hyperscale data. This is pre-market. Hyperscale data announces advanced negotiations toward executing a master's. Okay, cool. I'll be honest. I'm going to stop reading there. It's kind of a boring headline, but clearly the excess of 1 billion is the phrase or the keyword here. So expected to be worth in excess of 1 billion. As soon as you see a headline which says in excess of 1 billion and you check the floats by going over to the fundamentals window like this, dragging it over here, giving it some room, you look at the float. We have GPUS 228 million float, which to be completely fair, it's a little higher on the float side. But with a headline like this, 1 billion valuation on some sort of contract agreement, something like that, plus the AI news, you're onto a winner, right? So this thing went from 16 cents to 27 cents, which of course, this being a penny stock, moved pretty quick. This is the 1 minute chart. In reality, you can see where the news hit. The news hit 6 hours ago, which was 6:30, and you had a couple of minutes to get in, And after that, again, like I said to you guys, right? If you're waiting for a finfluencer or someone online or in a Discord chat or in a chat room somewhere to call this thing out, you'll be waiting until the third, the fourth candle, and by that time, you might be able to get out green. But the reality is, the risk is high. You do it 100 times, you're going to be taking losses. You're using the news feed, the news scanner, sorry, and the pro scanner, which I'll also show you. You're going to be seeing this thing within the first few candles, even over here, right? Minutes before the actual move, which is what we're looking to do. We're not looking to get you into positions. We're looking to help you make decisions around whether you should be getting into positions or not and when, right? That's what we're looking to do at TradeZero. So that's GPUS. Let's just take another look at another symbol, PAVS. Again, I have no idea why this moved. I wasn't online in the pre-market. Paranovus Entertainment Technology Limited signs non-binding letter of intent to acquire Habanero Inc. Again, when I'm scanning these sorts of headlines, what I'm doing is I'm scanning for numbers. I don't care about most of the other stuff, right? I don't have time to read through all of this. Right now, from the headline, I'm interested, right? It tells me the word acquire makes me interested. Non-binding letter of intent is taking away from this headline, to be completely honest with you. If it was a binding letter of intent or if it was something more, a little more strong, I'd be more interested. Just off the headline itself, the word acquire is getting me interested. The non-binding letter of intent is making me feel a little bit uneasy about it, and not really wanting to go for this one if I were to see it at the time of release. But it's enough for me to sort of pique my interest, jump in, have a little look. Immediately, I'm looking for monetary values, right? 20 million here, 15 million there. That's all I really see, right? So I'm going to go back and actually read through these. We'll pay an aggregate purchase price in the range of 50 million and 20 million. Payable in cash at closing. The purchase price, the final purchase price. Now that I've read that, fine, all right? You're throwing around some numbers, 15 million, 20 million. Let me look at the float, right? Let me see the chart. Let me look at the float. 639k. That's pretty good, right? So that's why this has moved. If this was a 100 million float or a 200 million float like GPUS, I really don't think we would have seen a move here. But because it's a 600 floater, real low float, micro float, that's why we see the move, right? So you see there how I've taken the move, taken the news, taken the float and attributed them all to each other and made a decision based off that. In this case, I could definitely have seen myself taking a move on this. And again, we can't show you in real time how this all came in, but you can see exactly the timings here. So PAVS, that's at 8 a.m., right? And this thing really took off. So if we look, yesterday, was there any news on PAVS? I don't see any, but a good thing you guys can also do is if you're feeling the news scanner is a little noisy, right? A little noisy, bit too much going on, you can disable the wire and just have the press release enabled, right? Let's look at this, right? So press came out first for GPUS. Boom, it went 50-60% or maybe more. PAVs, again, the press wire is what released the headline first. CUPR, again, well, in this case, I think it was a headline from yesterday, right? So CUPR actually started from a previous day. But if you look at the first CUPR headline, it's a press and it's limited. Cuprina Holdings Limited regains compliance with NASDAQ listing requirements, right? And that looks to be the reason why it's possibly moving. Honestly, that doesn't usually move stocks. So you guys could be sat there screaming at your monitors, telling me to, look. See, I was right. So Cuprina Holdings shares are trading higher after the company announced it regains compliance, and that's the reason it's trading higher, right? So just like that, within seconds, I'm finding the reason for these things moving. If we look at the chart, boom, it was moving yesterday. It pre-market, it started moving, comes down. It started moving at 9 a.m. So it's this headline right here, this exact headline right here. Again, the press headline is the one that came out first. And then 25 minutes later, you get the wire headline. Do you need the wire? If you want to remove some noise, disable the wire. Boom, there it is, right? Now I just have the most potent headlines coming out, and I can see those straight away. I like the wire because it tells you, it gives you a little more info, and it just keeps you from getting a little bored from just seeing only a few. But But that is the way that I log on when I'm logging on late and get a quick understanding and a view for what's going on, what's happened, why things are moving. Okay. Am I good for time? Can I cover the scanner, stock scanner, Dan?
Sure. Let's do it. Quick.
All right. Cool. I'll be quick. All right. So again, so stock scanner. So you pairing the news scanner and the stock scanner is one of the most powerful things you can do at TradeZero. I use it myself. It's extremely helpful and useful. So right now I have the stock scanner up. Small cap gainers is the preset I'm currently looking at. S dot is the only symbol that's really moving right now in a positive long direction. Now again, these scanners can be used by both long traders, short traders, whoever you are, you can use them, right? These ones in this list here, small cap gainers is targeted more towards the the long trader. But again, if you're a short trader, you might be wanting to watch this thing come back down, right? So for example, CMMB, that's up 5%, very illiquid, right? We'll ignore that one for now. S dot, you could be watching this as a long trader for a continuation or a short trader for a dump back down, right? These scanners are you really can't attribute them to one type of trader. But in the interest of time, I'm gonna leave it there, unfortunately. But feel free to check this thing out. You can customize it how you like, and just like that, we found. I mean, VBIO. How's this looking? Again, very illiquid, right? So market seeming a bit quiet right now. Nothing too crazy going on. If nothing too crazy is going on, you can go to the top volume leaders. And just because something's not moving in price, the volume tells a story, right? So in this case, IONZ is a 2 times short IONQ ETF. And so, maybe that's something that you might be interested in going and researching before you take a trade. COSM, right? It's all about asking the question why. I go on and on and on about this question why, but it's all well and good having these symbols in your scanner. You've got to ask the question why. Why is COSM in this scanner right now? Right? I can go look at the news. I can go look at the fundamentals and sort of understand, hey, look, is this in theme? Is it not in theme? RGNT. So RGNT actually being a symbol which is had news from today. If we look at the news scanner, RGNT had news for today, news pending, and then so it was halted for news pending, and then it came out with some news about some sort of Form RW, right? Cancels planned public offering. So that's why this thing is up. And so that context really helps me. But cool. I'm going to leave it there. I can feel Dan breathing down my neck. But that is the news scanner. That is the stock scanner. We'll definitely cover this in the future. But that's it for now.
Listen, I hope everyone appreciates the way that Mark takes us through these things, because really as a day trader himself, he is using the tools to help him drive his trading. So there's no better sort of education that you can get. I mean, I pick up things every time I listen to Mark talk through this stuff. So really well done, and I think he highlights a lot of very applicable use cases for the 2 scanners that we have now on TZ1. I'm going to cut back into the short selling, which is another real differentiator for TradeZero. Not just the fact that we facilitate short selling and facilitate bi-directional trading for day traders, but more of how we treat the short facilitation. And that is powered by our liquidity for non-easy to borrow stocks is powered by over 14 different sources. These are institutions that have that provide us with the ability to buy those permission slips called locates in order to short stocks that are not easy to borrow. One of the real differentiators within short selling is our patented ability to reapply those permission slips from one TradeZero customer to the next, which I'm going to demonstrate in a second. But basically, when you no longer need a locate, you have the facility on the platforms to what we call market for credit. And what happens is those shares become available. So the next TradeZero customer who wants to short those shares would essentially have that permission slip, that locate, reapplied through TradeZero to the next customer. So really, it gives folks an edge, because when they are able to successfully mark a share for credit, they recoup a proportion of the locate fee. And it also gives folks some peace of mind in knowing that, hey, even if for whatever reason TradeZero doesn't have shares right at this moment, I know they did earlier in the day, so there's the potential for me to be able to source those by nature of our locator platform. And of course, like the things that Mark talked about, the momentum scanner, this is applicable for both long and short traders, depending on how you set your scans up. And finally, this is a topic that we're really excited about that Mark is going to cover in a little bit, is our API. So one of the things that you can do using our API suite is price and source and execute on locates. So programmatically, you're able to interact with our locator platform in the same way you would as you would using one of our front end platforms, but doing so programmatically and potentially automating the requests and the executions on the locates, so that makes could potentially make trading a little bit more approachable as it relates to locate sourcing. So I'm going to now show you guys a quick sort of round trip on using the locator. You'll see here that I'm looking at PAVS in my order entry, which, by the way, we are now across the board able to short stocks that are 25 cents and higher. A few weeks ago, this wouldn't have been possible at TradeZero America, but we see now the stock is 38 cents thereabouts, and this little red LR, it tells me that a locate is required. So this is a new feature in 650, our quick locate feature, where I can click this. It tells me, okay, if I want to locate 100 shares, let me hit that locate button. It's going to come back with a price, 0.0045 cents per share. I'm going to accept that. And now what's happened is we see that we have 100 shares available of a total 100 shares located on PAVS. So if I want to short this stock right now, I can press the short button, 100 shares, it goes out. You'll see that because this locate is now tied up on an open short order, even though I haven't been filled, the locate required indicator comes back because it tells me if I want to short more PAVS, I need to go out and get another locate. So let's actually cancel this. Let me just do a market order and let's short that. You'll see that now I filled that shares, and because that short is now an active position, again, the locate required indicator is there. When I cover this, let's say I want to get out of this trade, just losing a couple of cents, I can cover it at market, and we see that again, I now have 100 shares available of a total 100 shares located. But the journey doesn't end there at TradeZero. And I want to show you guys the old locates window and how you market shares for credit, because it's always a good practice, regardless of the time of day, when from the moment you know that you no longer need a locate, and it could just be part of the located shares that you've done on a particular symbol, you want to mark shares for credit. And when I do this, again, my locatability is going to disappear because now I have an open order to have those shares reapplied to somebody else. I hit this credit button. So we see that the order is now live, and I'm essentially waiting for someone else out there to want to locate PAVS. This is done on a FIFO basis. So it could be that my shares are available for credit, but there may be shares ahead of me. We always prioritize in terms of the next shares to be filled on any symbol that someone has marked for credit. Their shares go first. So even if we have liquidity from other providers, once a share is marked for credit, those are the first ones that would be potentially reapplied to the next TradeZero customer that wants to short those shares. So I'll just leave that out there right now. And hopefully at some point between now and 8 p.m., someone will be taking those shares from me. And when that does happen, I see the statistics on what I recouped. So this is a nice feature and something that to the best of my knowledge, you're really only going to find at TradeZero, which at the end of the day, putting money back in your pocket for something that you paid for is an edge. and we're happy to provide that. So just kind of coming full circle on short selling. Again, it's always important to talk about the risks when we are talking about day trading and shorting. Shorting stocks, when you go long a stock, the worst that could happen is it goes to zero. And that could be a really bad thing, but it's not going to go further than that. Where on the short side, theoretically, symbols can keep going up and up and up. There's no limit to where they can go. So this creates some risk, some additional risk than just trading long on margin. So it's always important to set your stops and to be very mindful of how you're using your margin, especially as we've now moved past the pattern day trading, where everyone who has an account that's greater than $2,000 in the US now has 4-to-1 intraday margin. So it's particularly important to manage your risk as well as manage your exposure and your margin when you're short selling. Overnight borrow fees. So that is a different bucket than locates. If you locate a stock and you short it and you hold it overnight, that then becomes a borrow. In the client portal, we provide folks the ability to know exactly what they're going to be charged before they take a short position with the intent on holding it overnight, so that you can make that decision. Do I want to short this? Do I want to hold it based on what the cost is going to be to carry it overnight? As I mentioned, the short threshold now is lowered. It used to be $1.50. We're now at 25 cents, where I think it's probably going to stay. And for TZA, and not just TZA, but also our offshore broker dealers, which clear through U.S. brokers. So the obligation is all there and the same, where we strictly enforce not allowing folks to short non-easy to borrow stocks without having a proper and prior locate in place. So the rules are pretty much the same regardless of which TradeZero broker dealer you're trading at, because at the end of the day, these are all we all offer access to the U.S. markets, and being that TradeZero America Inc. is regulated by the SEC and FINRA, whereas our clearing firm at the offshore broker dealers, either TZ Clear or Vision, those folks are regulated by FINRA and the SEC. So the rules kind of trickle down and apply to all of our customers in terms of how short selling works and how the locate facilitation works. So with that, I will pass this back over to Mark. I know this is a topic he's very excited about, which is the APIs. Like I was saying, it's not just for orders, balances, positions. It is also a great tool for locate facilitation. We're able to pull not only pricing, but also execute on those locate orders.
All right, beautiful. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. So we just switched our screen over to my portal real quick. You guys should see here we go. All right, portal.tradezero.com. I'm going to full screen this for us. Just before I continue, I do wish there was some sort of way for me to change all my Zero Pro sort of executed and notification sounds and market is open, market is closed sounds to Dan's voice. That would be great. We're going to work on that in the next few months. All right, so let's take a look at how you can get access to API trading at TradeZero. The first thing I'm going to preface this with is by saying I understand the concept of API trading isn't necessarily something for everyone. I understand that some of you might feel that you might need prior experience in API trading, and of course, yes, absolutely, it's API trading will experience or API experience or development experience is always going to be helpful in this kind of use case. But I'm going to be talking us through how you, as a complete beginner, someone who knows the markets, who knows their strategies, who knows what they like to trade, how they like to trade, how you can get access to our APIs so you can explore, right? Take a look. You don't have to send any trades, but it would be cool for you guys to be able to at least know how you can get your API keys and access the same APIs that power the platforms that you use at TradeZero. So the mobile, the Zero Pro, the TradingView integrations, the TZ1. How are those powered, right? We're giving you access to the same APIs that power those platforms. no exceptions. They are the same APIs, and you could go and build your own platforms if you wanted to. So let's take a look here. First, I'm going to log into my portal account, so my portal platform, I guess. So TradeZero, portal.tradezero.com. I'm going to jump over to the API keys button here. Now, before you can click API keys, you do need to go to platform selection, click your bundle, and enable the API trading add-on, right? So it's free, no additional costs. You can have the free bundle and still add API trading on, zero costs to you guys. So you press next, then you sign an agreement, and you're done, right? So I've already signed it. So I'm not sure if you guys have seen those cooking shows, but where they say where they sort of reach under the table and they say, "Here's one I prepared earlier." I've already signed it, and right now, of course, we are in beta. So I'm going to click API keys. And you can see here that I have my API key management page. I, of course, have been very active on the API keys, demoing this over and over again for the past few months. But you do have a full audit trail of your actions with API keys. Of course, it's very important to note that API keys are essentially a username and password and should be treated as such to your account, right? So making sure that these keys don't fall into the hands of bad actors is extremely important, and making sure that you keep these keys safe is also important. It's okay for me right now to be showing my public key, because of course it is a public key. If this were to leak, as it is leaking right now on the stream, it's okay. What I won't show you, and what you shouldn't show anyone or let leak, is your secret key. So I'm actually going to go ahead now and just pull my my tab to a different screen. But what I want you to pay attention to is, I want you to pay attention to the generate key button or regenerate key button. So when you first sign up for API trading, you'll see the generate key button, right? You can generate your first set of keys. Subsequent keys must be generated by clicking either regenerate key, or you disable your key and then you create a brand new pair. Okay, but these buttons are very self-explanatory and you can try them out yourself. I'm going to real quick show you the API documentation on this screen whilst I go and generate those keys. Boom. All right, so I've regenerated my keys. I have a new key set. I'm not going to go back to that page just because it has my key on it. But the key thing to note, if you get the pun, the thing to note there is, as soon as I refresh that screen, so the previous screen you saw, the secret key will disappear, right? So I've got two sets of keys. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to show you the API documentation. So you've got your keys. Now what? What do we do? You jump into developer.tradezero.com. Now, this is something we're very happy with. We're very proud of what we've produced here for you guys. And we're seeing an uptick in the number of users we have over API. And again, it's all designed to be completely usable by anyone, whether you have experience in API or not. Of course, you are responsible for your own code. It's very important to say that, but it's available for you to use, and we've used very plain language in understanding how this stuff all works. So I go to developer.tradezero.com. You don't need login, you don't need anything. It's publicly available. All you need are your API keys, right? So you jump in here. What we could do is we could go straight to the documentation. We have a few different tabs across the top. We have the documentation. The documentation is designed to tell you how to use the various endpoints. So actually, a better place to start is the API reference. So we're going to start with the API reference and come back to the documentation. But you can see here I have 4 sets of endpoints. I'm going to expand all of them just so you can see them all in one go. I have this one right here, retrieve account details. I have list user accounts. I also have retrieve account values and P&L, right? That's 3 endpoints which come under my accounts sort of category for endpoints, right? These are all get endpoints, which means that they go and receive information, or they request information from TradeZero, and we provide that information through these endpoints here. We also do have the ability to provide WebSocket connections for various aspects of the API and data. So, for example, if you want to receive your orders or portfolio over WebSocket, we can do that. If you would like to go ahead and receive your P&L over WebSocket, we can also do that. These are endpoints, so REST endpoints, which means that you have to poll them every time you'd like to receive that information. But in the documentation tab, if you go down to the WebSocket API, you'll find information about the P&L stream and also the portfolio stream. I'm not going to go into more detail on that today because this isn't an API-centric call. We are going to be doing a full API webinar very soon, which will focus us in for a couple hours on API. This is just a very quick taster for what you could do with API, and just giving you guys the chance to go play with it before we have our next webinar. Cool. So let's go ahead and test one of the endpoints. I'm not going to test all these endpoints. I am going to just show you how you can test one of the endpoints, and then you should be able to go away and test them all. So if you scroll down on the right here, it's asking me for my API key ID and my API secret. If you do enter these, nothing is saved. Please don't worry. As long as you don't save them on a notepad somewhere and someone sees them, you're safe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab my public key, throw in here. I'm going to grab my secret key. Again, all of this information can be found on the API key management page, which we just looked at. I'm going to paste the secret key in there. I'm going to go ahead and enter my account ID. Okay, so we'll all should have access to our account IDs. And I'm going to send the API request. And just like that, I get back some actual real values. I'm going to full screen this. These are the values for my account, right? So you can see here, I have, how much money have I got in this account? So something around 3486, right? Let's go to TZ1. Let's have a look here. So TZ1's giving me a slightly different value because I have lost some money and I've got some positions unrealized and realized. But we're seeing pretty similar value in TZ1, so 3464, right? There you go. I'm sure I'll be able to find that value actually in here somewhere. 3463, around the same value, right? So now obviously the market's moving, so we're about 50 cents off, but as I'm talking, things are moving. So my positions are changing the value of my accounts. So that was it. And so, it's important to understand is we're giving you access to the same APIs that power the platforms, which means that you can essentially sort of through backwards mapping, look at the values you're getting in through this endpoint, go to TZ1, and you'll immediately be able to tell we're powering various aspects of the platform, including this account summary up here, with these endpoints. The values are all the same. The fields are all the same. And you quickly start to understand how we've built the front end platforms at TradeZero. And we have nothing to hide. The endpoints are there to be used. And that's why we're here, sort of giving the education on it, right? So I'm not going to go through any more of this. I do want to sort of keep conscious of time. But that is the API reference. So you start off with the API reference, make sure your keys are working. Enter your public key, your secret key, hit send API request. Make sure you get a 200 response. A 200 response means that the response was acknowledged and we returned something to you. In this case, we returned your account values back to you. Again, same story for all of these endpoints. They're all the same, right? Some of them are deletes, some of them are gets, some of them are posts. But we can cover that in a separate session next time around when we really deep dive on this stuff. Next, the documentation tab. So we have a bunch of documents in here. We have welcome, about TradeZero, where you hear the lovely story of how Dan and friends came along and built TradeZero, which you can read in your own time. But the most important page on here for starting out is authentication. Understanding how you can authenticate against their APIs, just like I just showed you, but via code, right? So I've just shown you how to do it via the documentation, just to test it out and see if you like it. But when it comes to actually doing it through code, that's where you come into here and you can really understand and get some examples of how you can authenticate against our endpoints. We have two sets of APIs. We have the trading API, which is essentially everything you see in this list: accounts, locates, orders, and positions. And we have the WebSocket API. The WebSocket API is essentially, again, as I mentioned, a way to stream values in real time to your systems. We'll say. We also have the change log where we update any breaking changes, etc. in here in advance, so you know what's coming. Of course, if we do introduce a breaking change, we would version the API. So right now we're on V1, but of course in the future we could enter V2, V3, etc. So I won't go through this in too much detail. Again, I'd love to go through this in more detail on the next call we have with you guys. So this is more of a taster, but we have full documentation around absolutely anything and everything you could use our APIs for. So let's go over to the recipes tab. And this is the last tab I'm going to leave you with before I jump off and get told off for dragging this out for too long. But essentially, the recipes tab allows you to get a sneak peek or a view into how exactly we would use our own APIs, right? So we have a bunch of recipes here. So if you would like to create your first order, or authenticate and discover your account, or list all your accounts, right? All these different actions, we have about 15, 20 different recipes. My favorite recipe, I'm going to show you this one now, right? You go to locates. The first one in locates is my absolute favorite. You can go through the entire locate process, including everything Dan showed you, from credits, sellbacks, purchasing locates, rejecting locates, quoting the locate but not actually buying the locate, etc., through these recipes in this list, right? We have 8 recipes here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the first one, let's review it. Let's have a look, right? So this is in Python. It's also available in TypeScript. We're going to add more languages, but to be completely honest with you, you should be able to make do with just these 2 languages here and use your own language if you want. I know a lot of guys use Go, etc., but we have Python and TS in here. So the first step, if you want to locate through API, is check easy to borrow. So you hit the easy to borrow endpoint. Is it easy to borrow? Yes or no? If it is easy to borrow, it'll return true, and you don't need locates. You can just short it, right? So your system can say, hey, is it easy to borrow? Yes or no? If it is, great. We don't need locates. If it's not, we should start the locate flow. Step 2. And as you can see, we're moving through the code, right? So step 1, this is the code that powers the easy to borrow check. Step 2, this is the code that powers the ability to request a locate quote, right? So remember, there's a difference between accepting a locate quote and actually requesting the locate quote and actually accepting the locate quote. So in this case, I'm requesting what looks to be 100 shares in a symbol, right? So in this case, the symbol you'd have to replace, but this is the template for you to use. Then you poll the history endpoint to find the quote. Then you accept the quote, and then you can open your short, right? So this is the exact full end-to-end flow that Dan just showed you in Zero Pro itself, but in code. Okay, so that is how that works. And I definitely encourage all of you who are interested in this sort of thing to jump in and have a look, right? Use a paper account. You don't have to use your live account. You can use a paper account. Test the endpoints, the same endpoints with a paper account. And if you want to know more about paper and API, jump into documentation, go over to account types, and then you have the differences between paper and live when it comes to API trading. So that is it. I would love to tell you more, and I'd love to keep going and even start building some applications myself on this webinar. But we're going to leave you with a cliffhanger. We're going to get you to come back next time. You can look forward to an email from our marketing team who will give you more details about the next webinar we're doing on API. But I hope that's been enough just to give you a taster so that you can give it a go yourself, get your API keys, and play with it before our next call. But
and just to let everybody know, I'm not a developer in any way, shape, or form. But using Cursor and our APIs, I was able to build a really cool application around locates. So this is not just for developers. It's for anybody, right? Anybody who knows how to use AI, knows how to prompt. You can leverage our API suite to really build something meaningful and cool.
Yeah, we actually had to take Cursor away from Dan because he was spending the whole day on Cursor. Yeah, it's dangerous to give Dan any AI. So, but yeah. Oh, Zenaid, you're on mute. Just a heads up.
Yes.
See, that's what happens when you have 3 different ways to mute yourself. But no, that's great. And JG, I do see your question. You should get a recording. TradeZero will go ahead and send you an email, especially if you register for the webinar, which is how you're here. Dan, you got time for a couple of questions here?
Sure. Yep.
All right. I'm seeing hey, this ticker, that ticker, margin requirements. Let me just kind of broaden it out a little bit. Do different tickers have different margin requirements?
Yes. A lot of times those are modified intraday. And lately, and when I say lately, over the course of the last couple of years, there have been a lot of these super low float stocks that are tightly held by insiders that really are prime for manipulation and short squeezing. So in situations like that, where we deem that this has those same attributes, the symbols will carry a higher margin requirement. Typically, after they exhibit that behavior and they come back to behaving more normally, we will revert that back to something a little bit more that's a little bit more standard.
Okay, got it. You got one question here about what is the minimum amount you can trade with in TradeZero, especially now with the PDT rule out?
So to day trade in the US, you need to maintain $2,000. 2,000 is the number because that is the minimum number that you can have to get a margin account. If you want to day trade, if you want to trade actively, you need to have a margin account. Anything less than that, you can trade, but it's cash only. And once you use that dollar to buy a stock and you sell it, you don't have access to that dollar on the same day. You get it back the next day.
Right. All right. And then, we talked about margin and interest and things like that in the past. So for margin interest, if someone has a margin account and they use that margin to purchase, are they paying interest on that day that they use it, or only if they hold a position overnight?
That's correct. Only if you hold it overnight. So you can max out intraday. There's no cost for doing so. Like I said, as long as you maintain a margin account of $2,000, you'll have 4-to-1 intraday buying power. And as long as you don't go, if you have $2,000 in your account and you hold $2,000 worth of positions, there's no charge. Once you go to that $2,001 with $2,000 in equity, you're going to pay margin interest just on the $1 that you're borrowing to hold something overnight.
Okay. And then I'm going to ask one more, and then I promise we'll let you go here. I'm going to kind of summarize this one. Ralph, you can go ahead and watch back the direct access aspect of what Dan explained. But Dan, you know how when you want to trade options, you have to reach out, submit something, and you get permissions. Is that the same process folks need to go through to get direct access ordering?
Yes, it's fairly easy. Just reach out to the support chat, let them know that you want to have DMA access. Okay. Which orders are 0015 per share. That is the base commission, right? So there are fees that are on top of that called routing fees that the exchanges will take to charge to take liquidity. That's typically 0035, which adds up to 005 per share.
And
just
the overnight,
talk to the support reps, and they can help out.
And the overnight with the margin. So if I buy a position on Friday, I'm holding it over the weekend. Market opens on Monday. Is it fair to assume that I'm paying the same amount in interest there as if I bought on Tuesday and held it till Wednesday? So the weekend doesn't charge me more. Do you know?
The weekend, because it's 2 days, is 2 days of margin interest. Yep.
Got it. All right. That's what we needed to know. Awesome. I will go ahead and say this. If y'all are interested in the API webinar that Mark is so excited about, make sure you go ahead and put your email addresses in the chat. We will go ahead and get those out to you when that webinar gets scheduled. And of course, I always go ahead and have educational webinars every Tuesday from 11 o'clock to 12:30 with Richie, Felix, and also Bob on various topics. Doesn't matter what type of account you have, what type of trader you are. Felix covers options as well. You can sign up for those sessions at that link there. Mark, appreciate your time. Dan, you as well. Any final thoughts from either of you?
Just one thought of cleanup on the weekends. It's actually 3 nights. You have Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. So it's not 2, it's 3 nights of margin interest.
All right. Appreciate that clarification. Appreciate all of you for joining us. Again, once this wraps up, TradeZero will go ahead and send out the recording. So just be patient on that. And if you don't, for some reason, get it, reach out to us and we'll make sure you get that. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Later.
Bye.